Okay, uh, I don't see the Bitcoin in here yet, and so we maybe wait a little bit longer. But I will just let you know that you're not the only person that's had all this trouble. Every single guy that has come in here, literally 100% of the people that have come in here to buy gold with Bitcoin have had to go through a ton of hoops to try to send this. They kept getting error messages and having problems. Two of the guys even had to go home and get an entirely different computer and come back just to get it to work. Real pain in the butt.
Okay. Hi, everybody. This is Silver Dave, and I'm here to talk to you again about Bitcon. It's a trap. And I want to start by first explaining. I know a lot of people will say, oh, but Dave, you're into silver, so of course you hate Bitcoin and you're just angry and blah, blah, blah. No. This is more because this is not a pitch for silver. This is because I am a liberty and freedom enthusiast. And that is the reason that I got into silver and gold. Now, when I see something that is a clear and obvious trap, then I feel it is important for my who I believe I am to be able to help share information with people so that I can possibly help them, especially people that I care about or that are my friends or Facebook friends or whoever. I want to at least share this information, and people that I don't know. I want to share this information with you. And if you want to make whatever decision, of course, you're going to make the decision that you feel is right. But at least you might have had a chance to hear my point of view. And so I want to cover some of this stuff, and I want to go deeper. I'll start by saying, yes, I know that the Bitcoin price has gone up. But just because the Bitcoin price has gone up doesn't mean it's good or that it's safe or that it's a tool of freedom and liberty. And so just a little more basic stuff here before I get into the nuts and bolts of this thing, because a lot of people have explained to me that, oh, but Bitcoin is a tool of freedom and the global power elite hate it and they can't stop it and the government hates it. And so that is really important because that is the exact opposite. And I'm about to explain why I suggest that it is not a tool of freedom and liberty, that the global power elite do not hate it, and that they don't want to stop it. If they did want to stop it, they would. It would be very easy. They could just declare it illegal, and immediately all the firms would not be able to accept it or make apps for it. You wouldn't be able to send it. It would be over. And so let's get into this. Okay, first of all, Bitcoin. It's not a coin. Okay, first indicator, fraud. It's a trap. All right, let's start. Who is Satoshi Nakamoto? A lot of people say that Bitcoin was created by Satoshi Nakamoto, one man, and no one knows who he is, where he came from, or where he went, but yet they believe he created this. Now, whether it was in fact Satoshi Nakamoto, one guy by himself who's disappeared and somehow isn't benefiting at all from this whole thing, that's what you think. But I would suggest that Satoshi Nakamoto is not actually one guy. He is a team of web developers that work for the global power elite. And the global power elite, in case you're not sure what I'm talking about, these are the people that are control. They print the money. They own the government. They buy the politicians. They pay and bribe the politicians to put laws in place that restrict you and I, and that cause things to work in favor of the global power elite. They start the wars, they fraud us, that's what they do. Okay, and they basically are the rulers of this planet. And what they're after, what they stack, is gold and armies. Now, the global power elite, I suggest that the global power elite are behind creating Bitcoin. Now let's go a little deeper. What is SHA, S-H-A 264? SHA 264 is the technology which the blockchain uses to operate. Now, who invented and owns the patent for SHA-264, the NSA. The National Security Administration owns the patent for the technology that Bitcoin and all these cryptocurrencies, most of them, use. Okay? That right there should indicate that this is not a tool of ultimate freedom and liberty, and that it's not secret. It's not anonymous. Everything you do with Bitcoin is 100% trackable. And the NSA invented it. Now, let's go a little further. Who invented the internet? Well, the internet was created by Alphabet Corporation. Alphabet Corporation is now known as Google. But when they were Alphabet Corporation created the internet because the government hired them to create the internet in order to make codes and rocket codes and things for different wars, but also because they knew it was going to build into this thing that it is now, and they could track everything everybody does and control tons of things. And so, who created the internet? A simple way to say is that the people who control the government hired their friends, Alphabet, to create the internet. So is the internet a construct of the global power elite, or is it a construct of guys in their grandma's basement on their computer? You know the answer to this. It is a construct of the global power elite, the most powerful people on the planet, and they control the internet. And there are giant cables that go under the ocean. They control that. You don't control that. They control that. Now, Bitcoin mining. Bitcoin mining requires two main things: electricity, lots and lots of electricity, and processing power. Now, who do you think has the most processing power? Once again, do you think that it's the people who created the internet? Or do you think it's the guy in his grandma's basement on his computer? Okay? So, processing power. Well, I'm going to answer this question. The people that own the government, the global power elite and the government, have the most processing power by a astronomical long shot. There are giant liquid cooled data processing centers in multiple locations throughout the United States, and they are not a secret. It is known that these data collection centers exist and that the government has built them and used your tax money to build them, and so that they can access information and track basically everything everybody does on their computer, on their phone, and collect all that information. Okay? Gigantic liquid cooled data processing centers. Now, do you think that Bitcoin, which requires mostly electricity and processing power, do you think that it gives you the advantage who has very limited data processing power? Or do you think it gives the global power elite who have gigantic liquid cooled billion-dollar data processing centers? Who do you think has more power in this sector? Well, if you think it's you on your home computer mining Bitcoin, then I feel like you're probably wrong. The global power elite have these gigantic mega centers that are processing data. That gives them the advantage. So if you're thinking that Bitcoin, it gives the people the power, no. The government has giant facilities that can process and mine and do way more of it than any one person on the planet and any group of people on the planet. And so that puts Bitcoin in their hands. It puts the power in their hands. Now, the next thing, this is kind of like something that really rung my bell. And it was this like kind of hillbilly guy that lives down the road. And he's like pretty technically savvy when it comes to fabricating steel and welding. And he's like, well, Dave, you know that when someone builds something, they always build it thinking of themselves first. And this Satoshi Nakamoto guy, he probably built Bitcoin and he knew to give himself a whole bunch of them when he built it so that later he'd have a whole lot of it if it ever became popular. And so that makes a lot of sense to me. Do you think that Satoshi Nakamoto or the team of web developers that created Bitcoin, do you think that they really did that so that they could just walk away from it and not get anything out of it? Or do you think they did it because they were going to get something? And I would suggest that they were hired by the powers, the global power elite, and they were hired to create this Bitcoin, and that when they did it, they were paid to do it, but also that the global power elite made sure that they were allocated a huge amount of it so that at a later time, when it became popular, and I don't want to call it valuable because it's worthless, but when they knew that many years later, when they would get it to be popular, they would have the most of it. And newsflash, there are several Bitcoin holders whose identity is unknown, but that what is known is that they hold a massive amount of Bitcoin, more than anybody else that is known. And so that there are some secret owners of Bitcoin that we don't hear who they are, and they own the most of it. Who do you think that is? Do you think that's the global power elite and Satoshi Nakamoto? Or do you think these guys they built this thing and they walked away from it? I think that it is the aforementioned. I don't think these guys walked away from it. And I'll also add that the global power elite were very smart when they put out this product. They knew that they were eventually going to have the financial meltdown. They knew that gold and silver would go up in price, but they wanted the gold and silver. So they wanted to give people something else that they could throw their money into, something that has no cost or little cost to them. And so what they did is they created Bitcoin, they created this stuff, but also they planted the seeds of it in Liberty people who would have been the first people to complain about the system and the Federal Reserve System and the financial system. And they would have been the people talking about silver and gold. But instead, they planted this seed in a bunch of so-called liberty enthusiasts, and they told them that this stuff is for freedom and liberty, that it's untrackable, untraceable, that it can't be stopped, that it has a value, which, by the way, none of which are true. And 10 years ago, they used to say that Bitcoin was secret and anonymous and you couldn't be tracked. Now they're like, well, you need to buy this Monero to be untracked, which is also tracked. Everything you do on the internet is tracked. They can track your phone. They can cross-reference to your email and your text numbers. Even if you use any type of a VPN or whatever, these guys are really good at this stuff and they can track everything on the internet. So my point is that they planted the seed in Liberty people because then they knew that instead of having to go against the Liberty people, they got the Liberty people to actually be the top salesmen for this. And they spent a lot of money to try to legitimize this because it never would have worked to try to sell people air for nothing, for a huge amount of money, never would have worked. So they needed to promote it. And they worked really hard to do that. And now that the price is going up, of course, people are attached to it. They're emotionally attached to the idea. And as the price goes up, more people are going to get sucked in. But what they don't realize is that the system is getting more and more rickety. And I would say that it is not much time before there's either a Bitcoin disaster, big disaster, and I'm not talking about it going down 20%. I'm talking about it going down 100%. And that might either be because they find out there's a problem with the operating system, or because it gets hacked, or because it gets infected with a cyber pandemic. And you know that you've been hearing these same guys that talked about the last crisis. They've been talking about the next one. And it's a cyber crisis that's coming. And that the idea of thinking that this stuff that makes you dependent on a phone or a device, electricity, an app, internet, and internet access, and that those 5 things are all required and you are dependent on that to use this stuff. That does not sound like freedom and liberty and independence. Sounds like a trap. And so this stuff isn't anything. Can't be made into anything, can't be used for anything. Its only value is the illusion that it's going to go up in price. And so my suggestion is that you consider this information and maybe share this video with your friends. And this is not me being angry at Bitcoin. Nope. Actually, I'm disappointed in so many people that claim to be freedom and liberty, and yet they can't detect that this is the most obvious trap. It's like I see a gigantic hook hanging on a piece of meat, but all they had to do is color the hook a different color. This is the same thing they did 100 years ago to usher in the financial system that we have now. So don't get Bitconned. Don't get Bitconned. It's a trap. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, possibly click like to this video if you like it. Make a comment and tell me how you feel. If you think that I'm a jerk because I'm, raining on your parade because you love a non-existent, worthless asset that's going to fraud and ruin a lot of people's financial position. But if you feel that way, let me know. Put it in the comments. So thank you very much. And thanks for watching. This is Silver Dave at Local Silver Mint. And so I'm into real assets, things that are real. And that's why I'm not into this. So thank you so much for watching. I'm Silver Dave at Local Silver Mint. Stack it up.